9.7. So we're doing a lot of really good work with very limited resources. The next page is just our little fact sheet that OIJ puts together for us. And if you look in the corner, it says among tobacco retailers assessed in Clatsop County, this is some of the things we look at. 1 in 3 place their tobacco products near toys or candy, and that's a big enticement for youth. It normalizes it for kids. 100% sell flavored tobacco, and that's another enticement for kids. And so you can look at the rest of these.
And also those e-cigarettes, aren't that tobacco? That's really poisonous too. That.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Oregon's really at the forefront in that they've included e-cigarettes and vaping with their Indoor Clean Air Act.
They included it in what?
The Indoor Clean Air Act.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And youth smoking rates is on the rise for the first time because of e-cigarettes.
What about chewing tobacco?
Chewing tobacco, you know, they don't measure it in Oregon like they do in Colorado. They should.
So that is not included?
It's included. Yes, this is all tobacco products and nicotine delivery devices.
So where is it included or where is it not included?
Well, it'll be included in the policy. What I didn't put in here is an actual sample policy. There's so many of them, but I do have other things to look at from other counties, and I can certainly provide you with that.
Yeah, I would be very interested in, and do we know if that's increased also among
I don't
young
know.
people?
I don't know.
We can find out.
Can we? Okay, because I haven't seen where Oregon measures that.
Why is Clatsop County higher?
A lot of it has to do with the low socioeconomic status of the residents.
There's a correlation between socioeconomic status and smoking. And so the lower socioeconomic status of a county, you'll see more smoking is prevalent.
But there are other counties that have pretty tough economic times. Why are we topping out?
It's a good question.
And yet it's very expensive. So if you have less funding for your life,
It's an addiction.
seems, right,
So that it's not rational.
right.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is that you would like to see, and we talked about this a couple years ago, I think. We would like to move forward or potentially look at retail tobacco licensing. And I see you have this form here. Were you getting ready to get to that with the other counties?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I didn't want to interrupt you. I'll go ahead and let you kind of finish before we.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So the next one, do you have this one? Tobacco retail licensing, protecting kids. This is a fact sheet that Lane County put together. They passed theirs, I think, in 2016. And so we'll be putting something together similar to this for Clatsop County for you. And then this one, I think we can skip tonight. You can look through it if you like. I was looking at the section 4 and 5 and then in the back. You know, more rationale for this and how other states are doing it. So let's go to the other jurisdictions. There's Lane, Klamath, Multnomah, and Deschutes. And I forget the 5th one. I think there's 5 of them now that have passed them. But as you can see, each county has their own components of it, so we can design this to suit us, what's appropriate for us. So they look at the specifics, when the policy was adopted, and the licensing agency, which Mike recommends that it be the Environmental Health Department. License fees are generally around $200. And that's something we can tweak, and I have another page that looks at that after this one.
So is that $200 in order to sell the tobacco products? Is that
Yes.
per year?
Yeah, so it's renewable. They would do that through environmental health. Um,
And that money goes to administer it, or does it also, is that all?
No, it would, the idea would be is to use the $200. So as you know, our environmental health folks do the food, pool, and lodging program. So they're used to this stuff, including the Clean Indoor Air Act piece, to see if they're maintaining the 10-foot setbacks and all that. So it'd be a natural add-on to see if they have retail places to have them go in and look at it to make sure they're in compliance with the rules.
Okay.
Could I just ask one thing? Because it's a pernicious addiction. I've
Oh, yeah.
lost so many beloved family members, I can't even tell you. But I understand that the people who sell this may have some point of view. Do you know what their response would be to licensing?
That's part of why I want to take our time to do a real community-based process here and educate them and bring them in as part of the stakeholders. It's surprising how many support this, because we can offer with this training for them, to help train, because most of them don't want to sell to minors either. So the training can help them, train their employees how to ID youth, and what the penalties are. So it can actually be done as a support for them. And often a county will have retailers come on as their champions and support it. So, yeah, I mean, most of them, I would probably say, 90% don't want to sell to youth. So, and it's a fairly small fee compared to the profits that they get from tobacco, so.
Yeah, so I see here for different options and enforcement costs, you're looking at, basically it's about 1 FTE probably is what this is going to end up at, or less, or half?
Are you on the next page?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's go on to the next
Forward,
page. So this one, is this Deschutes? Yeah, this is Deschutes County. So they looked at 5 different options of how to do this, and the Cadillac version, option number 1, they would do compliance inspections once a year of all stores, do minor youth decoys twice a year, and then that's a half-time position. And I forget how many retailers they had in theirs. I don't think I have them on there. And that's like a $500 licensing fee. I've never seen somebody do that. I mean, I haven't seen them all, obviously, but usually the ones I've seen are around 200. So the 5th option was nothing, no inspections, no decoy inspections. So it's what I would call a money grab. So the license fee to apply for a license would be $67. What they went with was option number 3, where they will go in and do a minor decoy inspection once a year of all stores. And then that costs $265.
So this would only be in the unincorporated areas?
We would like this to be everybody.
Well,
Can
we
we do
only
that?
have jurisdiction in the unincorporated areas, so.
So what we were going to plan on doing as part of our stakeholders is work with the cities.
Oh, good.
The retailers that are in there, because like food, and lodging, they're in the city, but we have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So we would have jurisdiction on those facilities if they all say, yes, you can have that. So that would be a conversation we'll bring forward to those city councils.
That's important.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, you guys are the first.
Okay.
We want to make this a first stop before
Yeah.
we get any further.
Well, looking around here, I'm sure you have the full support of this board. The questions is, on that last page is, how much is the fee going to be, and how much resources can we put to it and afford? And that seems to be something that we need to figure out, and we look forward to a proposal. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. Can I show you the last 2 papers?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is what Lane County's application fee looks like. It's a simple 1-page application. And so we could design ours, based on this. I'm in touch with the other counties that have done that. We have a really good network going on. So, then the second page is what a compliance inspection report looks like in case we do decide to do that. It would, whatever our policy says would be in this report. Are we requiring them to have quit line information posted? If so, have they done it? On and on and on. So that's,
Yeah, question. Someplace I remember reading that free cigarettes are distributed in bars, but that, they would already be checking ID, so that would be folks who'd reached the age of majority.
that's
That doesn't
illegal.
count.
If they're doing that, let us know. They shouldn't be doing that.
I don't hang out in bars, I
That's-
just heard about it, but okay, if I hear, I'll let you know.
That's what drug pushers do.
Okay.
They give away their free drugs.
Okay.
And we do have the backing of Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights, the largest nonprofit well, no, they're not nonprofit, but they're the largest legal support for policy work for agencies. They've been around since the 70s. And then Tobacco Legal Consortium is another one based in California. So we have access to those advisors, and we would be working with Heather to craft a really good policy that works.
So your position is funded, we get some pass-through dollars from the federal?
Tobacco settlement, yeah.
It's
So
the
it
tobacco,
goes-
the big tobacco settlement.
Settlement through the state to us.
And
it
the-
goes through, it's passed through state dollars and
And the tobacco tax,
tobacco tax funds.
mostly tobacco tax.
You're, are you an FTE or
0.6?
0.6?
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for visiting
You're
with us
welcome.
today.
Yeah, thank you for
Does any of the other
listening.
members have any questions or comments?
So hopefully next time you see me, I'll be sitting there and there will be a group of well-spoken high school youth talking to you.
Good.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to business,
I
okay.
was going to say, if we covered Sarah's questions, I know she.
Oh,
Oh, right,
Oh, I think
We did, okay,
you covered it. Thanks.
thank you.
thank you.
Now we're going to move on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation on any item on the agenda except public hearings or any other topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. People wishing to speak during business from the public must fill out and sign a comment card. I have one guest tonight, a Jolene Hartill. Hi. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Jolene Hartell, and my address is 1409 11th Street in Astoria. I'm also currently the Deputy Assessor and Tax Collector for the Assessment and Taxation Department and have been an employee for Clatsop County for 9 years. I'm here tonight representing myself and some of my fellow coworkers to express our respect, appreciation, and gratitude towards our County Manager, Cameron Moore. And we feel it is important to show this publicly, given the recent events for which have hit our local newspaper. As county employees, we can't stress enough how important it is for the health of our organization that we have strong and stable leadership. In our experience, a strong and stable leader leads by example. They create environments where trust and respect is mutually shared and harmony and solidarity can flourish. Most importantly, a good leader understands how they impact their team by what they do and how they go about doing it. In our organization, this is extremely important because of what we do and the responsibilities we hold as public employees. It is obvious to us that Cam understands this and conducts himself in line with what we have just described. Our policies and complicated procedures are governed by the law, and it is up to our leadership to ensure for us that we have the tools necessary to do our job successfully and effectively. That includes providing a positive and stable environment to do it in. We feel that Cam has done an excellent job in providing this for us. He has continued the path laid out by Rich Mays in repairing the damage left behind by management before. He has continued to stabilize the dynamics within our organization by bringing his positive influence, integrity, and showing his trust and respect for us. We don't have to work by his side every day to see the positive difference he is making. We have seen it in the ripple effect created by his leadership. We hope that our shared perspective as county employees sheds some light on the impact that Cam's leadership has had on our organization. Thank you. On behalf of myself and my coworkers Alicia, Heather, Tara, and Serpa, members of the Taxation and Assessment Department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the consent calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we're going to move on to a public hearing. And this is a public hearing on Ordinance 17-04. This is a continuation of a public hearing on Ordinance 17-04, adopting amendments regarding the urban growth boundary for the city of Cannon Beach. Is there any additional input from staff?
Nope.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions for staff? I will now close the public hearing, and we can go to a discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt ordinance 17-4, amending the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan to add the property shown in Ordinance Exhibit B to the City of Cannon Beach urban growth boundary.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 17-04, amending the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan to add the property shown in Ordinance Exhibit B to the City of Cannon Beach urban growth boundary. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Second reading.
Oh, yes, may I have the second reading by title only?
Ordinance 1704, an ordinance adopting amendments to the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan regarding the urban growth boundary for the City of Cannon Beach.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to move on to our second public hearing. This is ordinance 17-05. This is a continuation of the public hearing on ordinance 17-05, adopting amendments regarding the urban growth boundary for the City of Seaside. Is there any additional input from staff?
I do have a housekeeping item. So since the last hearing, when the record was closed, we received additional written testimony from Mr. John Dunzer, but there's actually some specific language that needs to go into the ordinance. Let me just read the issue. So if you want to consider the correspondence, even though we did not include it in the record because it came in after the record was closed. If you want to consider it, you would have to reopen the record to admit it and allow parties an opportunity to respond. If you address these comments I just summarized that. So I need direction from the board on whether.
I'm not interested in opening up the record to accept that testimony.
I think we've had a pretty complete hearing.
Okay, then there will be a revised ordinance that notes that the correspondence was specifically rejected and not considered by the board. And so that's in the ordinance that you can sign later.
Okay, are we going to have to amend that into the,
I put it in there because if you decided to open it up, we'd have to have a new ordinance anyway, so
okay, so it's going to be the same recommended motion because we're not opening the record back up. Okay.
Okay.
So we're not going to open up the record, and do any of the commissioners have any staff questions for staff? Seeing no further questions for staff, I will now close the public hearing. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt ordinance 17-05, amending the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan to add the property shown in Ordinance Exhibit B to the Seaside urban growth boundary and conduct the second reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 17-05, amending the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan to add the property shown in Ordinance Exhibit B to the Seaside urban growth boundary and conduct the second reading by title only. May I have the second reading by title only, please?
Ordinance 1705, an ordinance adopting amendments to the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan regarding the urban growth boundary for the City of Seaside.
Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, staff. I'm now going to move on to our business agenda. Our first item is business item 8A, the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee appointment, page 85. Good evening. May I have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm pleased to come before you tonight and ask you to make an appointment to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee as recommended by the committee. Katrina Godders, a local physician practicing emergency medicine who is new to the area, applied when we advertised for the vacancy recently. We've had a vacancy for almost 2 years running now, so we're happy to fill this one. The position she's filling is actually the citizen position on the committee, but the committee agreed that her medical experience would provide a real bonus to the committee.
I see that, emergency medical physician working daily in cooperation with EMS. This is an excellent candidate.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the ASAA committee recommendation to appoint Katrina Godders, is that right? To the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint, sorry, I laid down my sheet of paper too fast.
Katrina
A motion
Godders.
to approve the ASA committee recommendation to appoint Katrina Gutierrez to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item up is the amendment agreement with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care, page 91. May I have the staff report, please? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm just going to give a little history to try to bring people up to speed on this. You all may recall that instead of the county receiving a brand-new 2017-2019 intergovernmental agreement with the Department of Human Services for the financing of developmental disability services, we first had an extension of the 2015-17 IGA, and then more recently, that IGA was restated and extended through June of 2019. So before the board tonight is an amendment to the county's provider agreement with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care to coincide with that restating and extension of the IGA with the Department of Human Services through June of 2019. Additionally, that increases, part of this process increased the fiscal year 2017-18 pass-through expenditures for developmental disability services by $259,973, and therefore an increase to budget authority is also requested. So the request is for the board to approve and sign the amendment to the county's provider agreement with CBH and the resolution in order for the budget adjustment.
So I noticed that the Oregon Department of Human Services may amend the financial assistance. Do you have any insight into that? The Oregon Department of Human Services may amend the financial assistance award. Do you have any insight into where they're going to go with that?
I think that's in there because those get amended periodically throughout the period of the agreement.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, does somebody want to make a motion or have any questions for staff?
No questions. Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve and authorize the county manager to sign the amendment to the 2015-2017 provider agreement with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care for community developmental disabilities services and any subsequent amendments, and approve Chair Lee to sign the resolution and order authorizing the expenditure of unanticipated grant revenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and authorize the county manager to sign the amendment to the 2015-17 provider agreement with CBH for community developmentally disability services, any subsequent amendments, and approve Chair Lee to sign the resolution and order authorizing the expenditure of unanticipated grant revenue. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next business agenda item is consider an offer on county-owned property, page 97. Good evening.
Evening, Chair Lee and members of the board. From time to time, we open up sealed bids on properties from prior auctions that have not sold. And this happens every third Thursday of the month if we have sealed bids. And we present those to you that meet our policy, which is 80% of the minimum bid or more. Tonight, we are bringing to you an offer for one parcel that consists of 6 tax lots that are tax foreclosed properties some decades ago, and it contains 7.36 acres. We offered this parcel for sale on September 19th with a minimum bid of $250,000 cash. It did not sell, but we did receive one insufficient bid of $100,000. And then on October 19th, we entertained sealed bids and opened those, and we got one from Dean Larson Creative Land Use LLC for $120,000 cash, and one from Sandridge Construction LLC for $205,000 cash. The offer of $120,000 does not meet the county's property management policy of 80% of the minimum bid after auction. However, the $205,000 offer is 82% of the minimum bid. So staff is asking for you to accept this bid, and the proceeds of the sale will be distributed back to all the taxing districts after the costs are deducted. And those costs could include recording fee of the deed and the county council legal fee. And then, of course, in addition to that, it will be added to the 2018-19 property tax roll. So I'm just asking you to consider these offers.
Any other questions for staff? We'll go ahead and look for a motion.
82% is good enough, right?
Really?
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I would move to adopt the resolution and order and authorize the chair to sign the deed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution order and authorize the chair to sign the deed. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final item tonight is a review of Commissioner travel expenses and travel policies. I got a little PowerPoint thing going on here. So the issue before the commission tonight is a review of the travel reimbursement request from Commissioner Thompson and the Commissioner's travel policy. As the chair of the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners, it is my responsibility to review and approve travel expenses for the members of the commission to ensure that they comply with the approved county commissioner travel policy and county budget. The county commissioner travel policy requires that any dispute not resolved by the chair of the board and the board members shall be presented to the board at a public meeting to resolve. My past attempts to resolve disputes with Commissioner Thompson have not been productive, and I do not think it would be any different this time. So consistent with the travel policy, I'm bringing my concerns to the board at a public meeting. The county commissioner travel policy also states the county will reimburse for all reasonable and necessary travel expenses, which are directly related to the Board of Commissioners' authorized assignments. It is with these policies and responsibilities in mind that I ask the commission to decide on reimbursing Commissioner Thompson for some recently submitted expenses. Before we go into the specific expenses in question, it is important to establish a context for my concerns about these expenses. Okay, there's the following slides here show our spending on travel and training for all of fiscal year. Well, first I'm going to start out with this first one. This is the 5-year Board of County Commissioners expense total. And we can see here, back in 2010, we actually lowered it because of, or 12, we actually lowered because of the financial difficulties the county was facing. And recently, because we went over budget last year, we, in the 2017-18, we raised the ceiling. And so that being said, let's see, which one do I push to go forward? The right. To the right? Okay, so here's the first quarter of 2017-18. So I think I need to go back here. First I wanted to start right here. So this is the first quarter of 2016-17, that's last year. Here I am, 561 at the beginning of the first quarter. And then we go back to the first quarter of, oh, sorry, I'm doing this backwards. Here's the second quarter of 2016-17. And so we're up to Commissioner Thompson, 3,600, you can see. And then the third quarter of 2017, this is where we had a brief conversation, and Commissioner Thompson went over her individual allotment, and I asked that she talk to the board, or me specifically, to get permission to go to more events and meetings, and that it would be okay for her to use some of the other commissioners that don't spend as much money. And so we still had to raise the, we still had to make a budget adjustment for that total, and then now we've raised it up close to 18,000 for this year. But here we are in the first quarter of this year, and Commissioner Thompson's already spent 3,500 of her $5,000 allotment. And most of this is for one event, and which isn't shown on the slides, but we have one event that Commissioner Thompson attended this year, and it was quite excessive amount. And this is the items in question that I would like to deliberate with the board. It's the, do I have that breakdown on here? I might. Here it is right here. Okay. So here we have the, I can't remember the name of the,
It's PNWAR, the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. That was the conference.
that's it. So basically, Commissioner Sullivan attended that conference, and she had lodging and expenses of $217. And Commissioner Thompson and she had lodging and expenses of almost $1,600. Now, I know that Commissioner Thompson went for 2 extra nights, but you'll notice that the concerns I have, and I wanted to ask the board to approve this, is that we have valet parking for $45, which seems excessive in my mind. I know the regular parking there was probably $15 or $16.
Mr.
Yeah.
Sorry. They took it, they put it in, they said that was the amount. I mean, I didn't,
Okay. And so I'm curious also how the room went from 189 to 332 a night.
well, I waited, because you asked me to wait, I waited to register. So this hotel was on Broadway. It was a Broadway Marriott, and I worked with the person to get as cheap a rate as I could. And what I did was walk a mile back and forth every morning. I left the hotel at 6:30 in the morning to walk to the PNWAR meeting that started at the other Marriott on NATO, because by the time I registered, all of their rooms were gone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's what they told me. So I worked with a person to get the lowest rate possible, but I walked a mile back and forth, leaving the hotel at 6:30 in the morning and coming back. The meetings ended between 5:30 and 8:30 at night. And so I know more about street life at night in Portland than I ever wanted to learn. So I appreciate that we're having this discussion, because the reason to go to PNWAR and to be there from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 or 8:30 at night is to build those relationships and to do that economic development. And I appreciate the Coastal Caucus met the very last day. And I don't know if you remember, but I came early and stayed all day long, every day. And the last day was the day that the governor's, her advisor said he's committed to building cross-laminated timber facilities in rural Oregon. And so that's the point of all this, is because remember I brought in that sheet of paper and I said, okay, I want us as a board to have a plan, to have goals, to have specific measures. If we as a board don't do it, I'm going to do it for myself. And so what I'm interested in working in is workforce housing, ecologically sustainable economic development, which looks like sustainable timber use, and resilience, because what we're learning is that the economic resilience, the strength of a community, relates directly to its resilience in terms of how we respond in catastrophic events. And here's what I want you to know. I did this so I could say, okay, if you have a fully engaged commissioner, here's the bill. I can afford now to pay this out of my own pocket. When I started this job, I couldn't. Now I can do that. But if we want to have a commissioner, because I always look for the cheapest price, and I always talk as long and hard as I can. But if you're parking in Portland, because I have to drive to and from Portland, then they had to hold the car someplace. And they said, that's the price to do this. And when I looked at it, this was the cheapest alternative available to me at that time. Because I'm willing to work as long and hard as I can, but I want to have my colleagues know this is the price. Now, I'm not interested in inflating anybody's budget, and this is to do work. This isn't out partying. In terms of meals, no, they had breakfast meetings, and they had snacks, and so that was part of it. So I think I had one sandwich or something on the way home. But what I'm always trying to do is to work as hard as I can for Clatsop County. I mean, my district is District 5. It's the there's one commissioner, but it's over half the land mass and provides over 60% of the operating revenue for Clatsop County from one district. And when I looked at the representation from that district, starting in 2009, Commissioner Samuelson was recalled, and the board appointed Commissioner Mushin, and he was defeated at the polls by Commissioner Birkby, who resigned early, and the board appointed Commissioner Matt Samuelson. So I'm the fifth one since 2009. So the district that's biggest and bringing in most money has had kind of inconstant leadership. So I've really thrown myself into it so that the people, the businesses, the individuals in District 5 are adequately represented, but also so that we as a county gain value from what I do. I don't want to have arguments.
Yeah, I don't want to make this into an argument, and it is an argument. It's just, I wanted to introduce this to the board because it's quite excessive amount, and it's important that we, as I've said in the letter that I sent, it's really important that we watch our spending. And so that's why I wanted to bring this to light, and I really appreciate your explanation. It's very sensible.
I always
You know, the point at hand here is that I'm going to make the request that we really, if you could continue again to talk with me about these events that you're going to, and really make sure that they are, you know, the best for our dollar. You know, I had a couple other ones that you've just signed up for.
Well, here's the deal. So that thing for the Valley and the Bellman, I didn't bill you guys for that. I put it on, that's for my tax record, so I don't forget what I did. I only billed for the hotel.
Okay, well, perhaps that might be I overlooked that because I thought this was the entire amount submitted for, so.
I have some comments.
Huh?
I have
Please.
some comments. So rather than kind of nitpicking over the different little, costs, I think we need to look at, we have a budget, and we should adhere to that budget as much as possible. And while I appreciate your hard work, I don't see the benefit. And maybe there will be some benefit in the future, but I haven't seen it personally. And the costs just keep escalating. When you went over in the beginning, several years ago, I said, well, I don't mind giving the budget, the portion that I don't use to you, because I thought, okay, well, you're doing a lot. But it just has continued to escalate. And again, I think we have an overall budget and we need to adhere to it.
So I appreciate that because I'm a fiscally prudent person. I believe in budgets, but I believe in a plan. So when we look at the budget we have, my question is always, what is our mission? What is our plan? What are our goals? And are those goals the SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable? I mean, one thing I did was go to County College, because County College, I was told in the board rules, is recommended for county commissioners. I mean, that's an expense. That's part of what I did.
That's the main, county, Commissioner Sullivan this year is going to County College for the first time, and that's why she's so high there. And
Yeah.
I do believe that AOC is one of the more important trainings that we, I didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead.
What's our, well, but next week is the AOC conference. And they're at 2:45 on Tuesday, there's a housing session. And part of that housing session is, I get 10 minutes on the agenda to present about CLT. So working with people, because you're right, it hasn't happened yet. How do we see the value? I keep working for economic development, for housing, for resilience. They're big picture, they're long term. There's not the immediate reward.
So are you saying that the escalating costs are all to do with that? Or are there other things that you are doing, other
There's
meetings.
housing, there's economic development, and there's resilience. I mean, part of it, the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute, they said, well, will you come and moderate a panel so we can talk about what happens to Seaside during a tsunami? I said, okay, but wait, you're not only not going to pay me, you want me to pay you money? And they said, well, you know, we have to have money to put on the conference. I said, okay.
Okay, so what have we seen from this? I mean, I'm just saying that I don't know. I can't seem to measure anything that you have done that has really made a difference other than what staff already does. I don't see it.
It's distinct, because what we're dealing with, and I appreciate the question, I think I would really like to have us do strategic planning. And
That's a
so-
different issue.
Well, no, this is part of it. I mean, if we have a plan, then we know, I mean, remember that thing I passed out that I wrote in June of 2015? I mean, always to have a plan before spending money, to have a
We do
goal.
have a plan, we have the budget, and we need to maintain and stay within that budget, Commissioner Thompson, and you consistently haven't done that. And we need to, you know,
Would you call the audience to order, please?
please, no signs, I'm not going to allow that.
Thank you.
So,
So
that's
here's.
my point. So that's the
Yeah,
strategic plan is there. We can have that conversation. So moving forward, there's two things I want to deal with tonight. Okay. First of all, I want the commission to decide whether or not they want to go ahead and reimburse for this travel event. And my recommendation is that I'm going to go ahead and recommend that we go ahead and reimburse you for the money that you've spent already. But the most important part about this is I'd really like you to reach out to me and we have a conversation, whether it's on the board level or just you and me, talking about, you know, what is the, you know, what are we getting out of this and what's the county getting out of it? I think that's really important for us to, you know, Commissioner Nebeker brought us, you know, those are legitimate concerns that I think she has, and I agree. Which leads me to, you've signed up for 2 more events, the Oregon Business Plan Leadership Summit. Now this is professional development in my mind. Is that what that is, professional development?
No, here's,
So is
what-
it okay with you? I want to have this conversation
Yeah, yeah.
because you've
Oh,
submitted
it's
these
fa- oh,
and
it's-
let's get
fabulous.
this figured out.
I
Okay.
mean, I am so happy to have conversations about this, because this to me is really what we need to be talking about. Because if we have these conversations, then we can move forward together. Because that's really the important part, is that we move forward together. Really, that we're a team on this, and I want to. I don't know that I'm doing the right thing. I do the best I know how to do based on my experience, and I do have experience in a bunch of stuff having to do with governance. So I do consider myself a subject matter expert on it, and I'm recognized in some fields about this.
Yeah, but
So,
that's
okay, no, but, so I don't need development, but what I'm looking to do is to build relationships and bring resources to Clatsop County. Things are moving along in that regard. It doesn't happen yet, but it's a goal, it's aspirational. I'm trying to move us toward it. That's what I'm hoping to do. And here's the deal. If the board can't afford it, if the county can't afford it, I'll pay it out of my own pocket. I just want you all to see, and I want us to have the conversation about what does it take to move Clatsop County forward together. And I think it takes housing, I think it takes economic development, because the way Oregon tax law works is that if we don't have economic development, we don't keep up with inflation. And
Well,
I think,
I don't see
and the
it.
resilience. Well,
That's-
you may not see it. I'm going to keep working on it because that's what I know how to do. And if you need me to pay it out of my own pocket, I'm going to pay it out of my own pocket. Because I saw this quote from Abraham Lincoln, I had to write it down. He has the right to criticize who has the heart to help. And I tell you, I think every person sitting on this dais has the heart to help. I think that's why we're here. So what I want us to do is to have these conversations so that we can come to some unity and go forward together.
I come back to, we have a budget. And I agree with Chair Lee that if there is something out of the ordinary, and I can appreciate that you want to work on these things, and perhaps one day some fruit will be born from it, but haven't seen it, and I think we need to keep within a budget.
Okay, well, so the question before the board also is that I have a couple of this leadership summit with the Oregon Business Plan and then Build Small, Live Large. I mean, there's going to be $200, $150 enrollment fee, and so.
Do those go over budget?
Well, not yet, but at the way we're going to go over budget. So my question is that I want to, I'll go ahead and allow and sign off on these unless there's any objections from this board. I'll sign off on where we're at up to this and these next two events.
Well, you have to allow up to budget, and when it's over budget, you
Well,
can't
then
go
we're-
anymore.
If we go over budget, we're just going to have to come back and do a budget adjustment and have a conversation. So here's my wish and my caution, is that that you really watch your spending, and if you feel that it's really relevant to the county. And to me, the most important place for this spending mostly should be spent on liaison and committee assignment.
But
Now, I understand professional development and economic development, but those are not really what I think we're tasked. Now, if that policy needs to be taken a look at, we can do that in a conversation that we'll have when we work through the budget here, and when we can go visit some travel policies. But, we're going to have our financial report coming up, and so, in the next quarter, hopefully we won't get too askew. And I just, I know you're justifying these expenses, but in my mind, I don't see the value.
I hear you, and I'm going to coal pack tomorrow. So economic development is part of my liaison responsibility and has been from the beginning.
Absolutely, but, you just gotta, I'm cautioning you just to
I got
make
it.
better choices in my mind about what we need to spend we have a different, it comes down to our type of government here and the home rule charter and our county budget and the way we conduct business as a board. And I think it's really important that while you may feel these are valuable, I don't think myself or other members of the board. So that's all I have to say to the matter. And do any of the other board members have any comments or?
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, thanks for having a conversation. And as I said, I really want to see Clatsop County flourish. I think we all do. And if I have to pay it out of my own pocket, I'll do that.
Because at the end of the day, we are, responsible to our constituents and our citizens and the voters of Clatsop County. So
I have one more.
Absolutely.
that ultimately are going to decide whether or not these
Absolutely.
expenses are appropriate or not.
Absolutely.
I have one more comment. I would ask, and perhaps this is not correct, but I have heard that, and you are working hard, that you've commented that you're the only commissioner that works, and
That wasn't accurate. That
I've
was.
heard it several times. So I would
You know what?
appreciate it if you would
It came out
cease
in a report.
making those
That
comments.
was an inaccurate quote. It was incomplete. What I was saying is, I am the one who works on housing. That's why I'm doing this. So that was, thank you for the chance to clarify that, because I don't believe that, and I would never say that.
Well, I've heard it from more than one source.
It was quoted, and gossip has a way of spreading. It isn't necessarily accurate. I'm telling you, it was an inaccurate
Okay,
quote.
good.
And I don't believe it. Because
Good.
I think everybody's worried. Well, thanks for the chance to clarify.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for entertaining me on this issue, and we'll move forward.
You need
Chair, can I,
a recommendation.
oh, yeah, I guess so.
Excuse me, go ahead.
So,
So the option to consider here is approve the travel reimbursement request for Commissioner Thompson up until this time. Is that okay with the board?
we're going to do that.
We're going to do
Up
that.
until this time.
Up until this time.
until this
And-
time.
and-
Can I point when you're talking about fiscal year, you're talking from, is it July?
Yes. it's-
From July
it's
to July,
to
right?
July.
So this first quarter does which month?
July, August, September.
July, August, September, okay. So we still have,
Yeah, I mean, basically, her allotment's been spent basically real close after AOC, by the end of the second quarter. So we're going to have to kind of come back and revisit this and talk about it again later on when when Commissioner Thompson needs to take some money out of the other folks that don't.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, at the end of the first quarter, your overall budget, you're fine. But Commissioner Thompson has used her entire annual allotment, so any future travel this year that she would do would have to come from one of the other commissioners' travel budgets.
So definitely.
According to the current policy.
At Commissioner reports, I think I'm just thinking on my feet here, perhaps the best way to do this is when you want to go to an event, just bring it up in Commissioner reports, and then we can talk about it right there, since you're going to begin using other commissioners'
Well, or
allotment.
I just go and pay my own way.
Well, that'd be the preferred.
Oh, yeah. Look, how many, okay, all right, 5 times now. I will pay it out of my own pocket because I believe in it. I believe it's for the good of people, and I can afford to pay it out of my own pocket. I wanted people to see what it would take for a commissioner who couldn't afford to take it out of their own pocket. I wanted to make that visible, and I wanted us to talk about what's our role as commissioners.
Okay. Well, to me, this has never been a problem before. Commissioners typically spend, I'm kind of the average guy here, and that's where we're at. This is typically what most commissioners look like here, and my request is that you just try to bring that down, and if it means using your own dollars, that's great. I find ways to save money all the time. I stay at friends' houses when I go to Salem or Portland,
I've done that.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough. And now we're going to move on to commissioner reports.
So I'm sorry,
ahead.
one of my concerns is I would like us to kind of call a truce and move forward and be positive and work together. I mean, I think we all are up here to serve our communities, and we all, I don't know if there's a heart of service, that the quote that I've heard today. I really would like to move forward in a positive way, so I hope we can do that.
I think we are. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
sounds good. Thanks.
Commissioner reports. Commissioner Thompson.
Well, I went to the accessory dwelling unit. It was a summit, National ADU and Small Home Summit. The AOC Housing co-chairs, and I'm the vice chair, so Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Schuster, and I went. It was very interesting because what people I know in the business have said is accessory dwelling units are an important component of being able to house people who don't have housing right now. I could talk for a long time. I mean, I don't want to bore all of you sitting here by going over what I did. What I'm looking for is how do I integrate my work with our work, and we use it to effectively set policies and monitor policy implementation by staff. That's what I'm interested in doing. We had a meeting with Representative Alyssa Kenny Geyer at noon to talk about, I got another chance to talk about CLT and how it builds the economy of rural Oregon and how it is a chance to build housing for people that they can afford to live in. It was about the economy and the ecology. We heard people from Canada and over Western United States to talk about the permitting process, to talk about zoning, to talk about costs and fees, to talk about how do we, they said if we don't make ADUs legal, people will build illegal, unsafe ones. And that's what I'm afraid we're seeing, not only in transient occupancy, but we've got a huge homeless population, and we've got people who are couch surfing who need homes. So how do we, as policy setters, move forward to create the partnerships with industry, with planning people, with zoning people, so that we can meet the needs of the people. So that was last Friday, November 3rd. Monday night, Cannon Beach had a city manager finalist forum, and it was interesting to see how that community, I want to say one more thing about ADUs. The thing that made them work so that this increased density didn't have a negative impact on neighborhood livability was there was a lot of effort put into outreach. When I lived in Portland, I did a lot of citizen participation that was part of that interaction between elected public officials and neighbors. And I think we'd be better off if we had more interaction as a board with neighbors, if we brought in and went to neighborhoods. I mean, we used to meet in Seaside, we've met in other places around the county, this, not us as a board, but other county boards of this county have done that. I think that'd be a good idea for us to reach out and to hear what people had to say to us by going to where they are. I wanted to say that. And then the community forum in Cannon Beach, they had 3 good candidates. I don't know who's been chosen, but we'll see about that. The Florida guy. He knew a lot of, thank you, Kevin. Kevin advises me at the Cannon Beach Library on a regular basis. So the candidate from Florida was somebody who was used to coastal living, who understands how to work with certs, who understands how to deal with hurricanes and not tornadoes, but hurricanes. And so he's comfortable keeping Cannon Beach in the forefront of resilience efforts. So that's important. Today, the Clatsop Soil and Water District met, and John Byers from the Oregon Department of Agriculture came. We had quite a lot of conversation about the impact of marijuana on water use in Clatsop County. And so I'd remind you that this board supports Clatsop Soil and Water Conservation District so that we don't have to pay for a weed board. They do a lot of good work with the watershed councils. They are about not education, not punishment. They are tolerant if people are working toward compliance. So they have a nice interactive model so that the Clean Water Act is something that farmers and others embrace. And I think that's a good model too. COLPAC is tomorrow. Columbia Pacific Economic Development Region. We'll be talking about Clatsop County's economic development needs, community economic development needs, and then the Northwest Act, the area Committee on Transportation meets in the afternoon. So that's tomorrow. Thank you.
Where's that at?
Seaside campus of Clatsop Community College. Starts at 10, goes to 3:30. If you can come, it'd be great. Well, I'll tell you.
But I appreciate you going, because I know that's important.
You know, if we build our economy, I see so many issues of health and well-being and public safety and just general satisfaction of life that would be remedied or ameliorated if we had economic development, which is why I try and wrap my arms around it and work with people to collaborate, to bring resources and activities here to Clatsop County to make those creative partnerships that'll work. Just not right now, it isn't happening, but I have a vision and I'm working toward it. Thanks.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you. Well, the big event for me was that since we last met, we've had an FTLIC meeting, Forest Trust Land Advisory Committee meeting, to discuss testimony for the Board of Forestry. And then there was a phone meeting, and So as a result of that, I went to the Board of Forestry to express Clatsop County's concerns as a commissioner from Clatsop County, because I was, the vote is, I was the one person out. We were the one county out of that situation, and I felt since we, produced this past year, we've produced 40% of timber revenues for the state. Tillamook County has produced a little bit under 30%. That I felt that even though I'm only one vote on the FTLIC, we still have, it's important for us to make our viewpoint known. And one of the concerns for me that I think I was expressing for the board is that we would like to see a habitat conservation plan explored and possibly have that happen. It's going to be several years to do that. They have applied for, the state of Oregon has applied for for a grant for that, and then there would be 2 more phases of that. So this is just, we are just saying, let's look at this. Let's look at this possibility. And the way that they are currently doing that is costing millions and millions of dollars. So this is a way to guarantee that we'll have a more balanced plan, and we can continue getting revenue from the forest. And so I spoke for that. I also believe that Clatsop County would like to hold on to our public lands and not sell them to the highest bidder. That's currently kind of being discussed, that maybe some of the public forest lands should be sold to private people or maybe given back to the counties. And I think before something like that happens, it needs to be a big process. The Board of Forestry is also, they're moving forward towards changing the forest management plan, which is going to be a long, ongoing process, but they will start talking more in depth in January. And so I will be paying attention to that. I submitted, and Teresa, I can't remember if I put you on the email or not, but I gave a copy of my comments and a copy of the FTLEC comments, and so perhaps we can include that in the minutes. And so I'll just forward you that email, and then we can get that in the public minutes. But it's challenging, as people on this board have already know. But I believe that one of the points that I made was that, that we care about our fish, our salmon, and that we know that salmon are our forest product. So we care about our watersheds, we care about these things, and so we want them to be considered when they go forward in the forest management plan. So I was proud to be able to represent Clatsop County with our views there. The other thing that I want to talk about that I don't know a lot about right now, but I would like us to consider as a board going into the future, there's the Stepping Up Initiative. It's a national initiative to reduce the number of people with mental illness in jails. I don't know if you all got this email too, but I think it sounds kind of interesting, and I would like to, in the future to talk about this. As we talk about the jail and what we need, I appreciate Commissioner Nebaker talking about the addiction part of it. And these are some of the issues that we all need to continue working on. How do we address the addiction issue? How do we address the mental health issue? And I know we are working on that, but I think that some of those things kind of come together as we work also towards getting a new jail. And then this is the season now of fundraisers. I went to the Iron Chef last night for the United Way. I went to the National Wildlife, the Wildlife Center of the North Coast. The food bank is coming up. And then when we talked about the arts and economic prosperity, I know the Chinook Nation this Saturday is having a art fair. So there's a lot of ways that we can give back to our community, and that is shopping locally in the holiday season and that's all coming up. So next month, I will be, during the meeting, I will be attending by phone because I will be in Michigan visiting my family, so I won't be able to come to the next month's meeting. But, you know, I believe we've got a lot of great people on this. We all, I mean, I just think we are up here for a reason. It's an honor to be up here, and I would like us to use use our time as wisely as we can, so we can move the county in the direction that we need to go. So thank you. All right.
Thank you. And I just wanted to, I'll be going to the FTOAC and CTOFLC meeting, so.
Oh, thank you, and I appreciate your support. And are we all, who's all going to the AOC conference? We're all going?
Yeah, so if any of you all
Okay.
could get
Some
to
of
that.
us?
I know it's going to be it's
7 a.m.
It's 7 a.m. and it's,
I know.
I'm not a morning person, but that's a free breakfast, so.
And
Are they charging for breakfast this year?
7 a.m. is
It's important for us to be there, and so.
I forgot to mention, I will be graduating from County College at the next week, and this was the largest class of new commissioners AOC's ever had, 31 new county commissioners, and 2 of my classmates are running for positions in the AOC, Jim Doherty for second vice chair, and Alex from Morrow County, and Alex Tarbeck from Columbia County, Columbia County is running for treasurer. So all of us new county college people are trying to get our boards to vote for the new people in town. So
no pressure. I got a card today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nebaker.
So is the forestry meeting, is that Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning.
I might have to leave
Y'all
early.
come.
I've gone every year.
I know.
I have to look.
Okay,
I have to write it down.
Yeah, I attended the Human Services meeting, and Amy Baker was there. She said that there's 2 new staff, or they're coming. Human Resources Director, Specialist. Are they already there? Do you know?
I think she starts next week.
Okay.
No, wait,
Specialist.
It's Wednesday. Sorry.
Oh, it is? It's
I
Wednesday?
wrote it down, 7 to 8 a.m. Wednesday in the
good.
Hellman Room.
Good.
There's a lot going on, and we probably should talk about how we can best cover it, yeah.
Okay,
'Cause
so
I
it's
have to
Wednesday.
write it down, or I don't.
Yeah, I didn't remember it being the first day before, but I wasn't sure.
No,
Okay.
it's Wednesday.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So this specialist, one of them is a specialist who will work with people who frequently use the emergency room. They're going to be called the Community Engagement Specialist. That's going to help cut down on people using the emergency room, which is why the respite center was, or one of the big reasons why it was created in the first place, because people were going into the emergency room, and it's very expensive. So also, the respite center has people coming in, and I've said this before, who are in addiction. We don't have a place to treat people who are in addiction. We talked about that at the work session, that there could possibly be a component in the new jail for treatment. Let's see. A Woman's Place for Women in Recovery is in process by Gobi in a 4-bed place in Seaside with services from CBH.
That'd be through CBH, you said?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
There is a large need for clean and sober housing. Jill Quackenbush, the committee, remember we, in the budget, the $15,000, that we increased the budget from $7,500 to $15,000. It was originally $30,000. I'm hoping that in the future we can get it back up to the $30,000. But Human Services Board, they are creating a committee who will decide about where that money goes. I know it goes to many good things, and I know Commissioner Thompson has talked about in the past that, if the public could come to us, but this is the place where people can apply for grants. These people know what they're doing. They make really good use of this money. Detox services and treatment. So there's a place called Bridge Pathways in Columbia County. It's in St. Helens. They have a 9-bed facility, and they partner with OHSU. And they transition from detox to residential, and they accept the Oregon Health Plan, and some Clatsop County residents go there. They only receive like $130 a day per patient, whereas private centers bill at $1,800 a day. Wow. It's a huge disparity. They don't usually get the $1,800, but they do get a lot more than OHP pays. I believe that we need to talk with Betsy Johnson and also our national reps about treating addiction differently than mental health. We finally come around to where we can talk about mental illness. I mean, it's been a long time coming, but people are more accepting of talking about mental illness and funding for that than they are about addiction. I see that addiction comes under mental health. And to my mind, they should be treated equitably, but they're not. There's very little funding that goes towards addiction treatment.
That's right.
And it's a growing problem, as everybody knows. And according to insurance reps, it's only going to get worse. So what do we do? Well, that's, like I said, I would ask that the commission consider writing a letter to the state, to our federal reps, to ask them, because it's a societal problem. The true funding is not there, and it needs to be there. We're paying a very high price as a society for this epidemic. There's a loss of wages, there's a loss of a generation. And middle and high schoolers, they need to be functional. There's a growing trend towards dependence on substances. We need to make sure that this next generation is independent and able to contribute to society. Otherwise, they just add to the numbers of the mentally ill and the homeless population. I attended the Public Safety Coordinating Council, and we were talking about goal setting. Again, homelessness is a growing problem for public safety, so there it is again. And they suggested that there is a good model in Tillamook County. They seem to be having success, but they also have a facility with comprehensive services for treatment. We don't have something like that, but it might be worth.
A facility for the homeless?
Well, part of the homeless population have addiction, and yes, homelessness, mentally ill. They're able to. I haven't seen the facility. I haven't read much about it. This is just what I learned in the meeting, that they're able to. They work towards getting people jobs and housing. Those are the most important components. But before you can be responsible in keeping a house and having a job, you have to be treated. So evidently they have a comprehensive program. Might be something we'd like to look at. Let's see. There is a grant, they believe, coming from the CCO, Coordinated Care Organization, for a ride-along position. Someone with a master's in mental health. They will ride along with a peace officer to get people on meds, to help get them out of the justice system. Let's see. And based on what I heard at the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting, it seems that there are growing mental health problems, and including substance abuse issues, and this is costing us a lot of money, both in the justice system and the healthcare system, which is why I think it's good to be proactive and beg to do whatever we can do, get our representatives to pay attention to this and put money towards it. As I said before, Oregon is dead last of all the states in the nation in treating mental health, putting dollars.
Dead last?
We are dead last.
Sarah-
That is a
That
shame.
didn't used to be that way.
Sarah, maybe you could work with Cam and put together a letter that we could send off to congressional delegation on the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And last, well, not last, but December 8th, there's going to be a briefing on the homelessness situation here with Alan Evans from Helping Hands. They have a lot of success. And they asked that as many commissioners as possible come to the meeting, like when we met with the new judges. So if it's possible on December 8th.
Where is it, sir?
Well, it's usually, it's, fourth floor, the conference room there. Oh, it's going to be at the Boynton Building, okay. And-
I'll be on my way to Michigan.
Okay. And
What day is that, the 8th again?
Mm-hmm,
Trying to
December
pop it
8th.
in.
Do you know the time?
It would be the same time as what.
So 2:30? Okay. So 2:30,
It's a Friday? Yeah.
yeah. It's the, is that the first Friday? That can't be the first Friday.
Yeah.
It is?
Well,
Okay.
second Friday. Second Friday.
Okay, so it's usually, okay, second Friday.
And it's here.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask if we are all in agreement about the voters pamphlet? Are we moving forward with that for the off-year elections?
Yeah, we were going to put that probably on a January agenda for discussion. I think it would be important, and our new clerk, I think, has some insights into that after, 25 years of elections in Washington County, and we'll talk about that, and you can tell us what you'd like to do.
Great, thank you.
Will we be getting, at one of the work sessions, we talked about getting in January, or before January, kind of some of the things in the budget. Remember, we talked about that?
Yeah. And I'll talk about that in my comments here in just a minute.
Okay, because I'll need to get that before I go home. Because that's part of that, too.
Okay. That's it, that's what I had.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Clement?
First thing, the Fair Board asked that we move the meeting up a week, or back a week, because there's not enough board members available to have a quorum. So we've moved that, they've moved that, and I will attend that. The 4-H leaders and member banquet is November 18th. They asked that all commissioners come. I think I'm sure you've been getting that from Sandra. Okay, great. So it's always separate, that we always have the members awards at the middle school and the leaders banquet on a different date, and they're combining them this time. So it'll be a really jam-packed evening of lots of member recognition for record books and awards, and leader recognition for years of service, some up to like 40 years. It's amazing. Some leaders for ever, and it's all volunteer. It's incredible, and everyone is really passionate, and they are teaching our youth and our community amazing things, for anywhere from knitting to sewing to archery to raising pigs, and it's pretty incredible. And it's a really fun time. There's a dinner, pig dinner, pork dinner, and of course, and great raffle baskets being put together. So all by different 4-H groups, so it's really fun. Second, the Astoria School District put into place some security measures. It was a really well-attended meeting for the securities facility group, and this is the decision that was made, and it's already been implemented almost as fast as it was made. It was pretty incredible. So I'm just going to read you something from Craig Hoppus, the superintendent, and it basically sums up everything that's happening, or that happened. The school district has made a decision to lock all doors at Astor Elementary, Lewis and Clark Elementary, and Astoria Middle School once school begins each day. This means after school begins each day, parents or visitors who come to those 3 schools must ring a bell outside the front door to be allowed in. Office staff in each of these schools will be able to see visitors through a camera system and will electronically unlock the doors once the person is recognized and the visitor verbalizes a need to be inside the building. There has not been an incident this year that has caused the district to take the safety measure, but rather this is a preventive measure to maintain the safety and security of our students. I've been to the middle school. I went 3 times today and 4 times on Monday. It is absolutely no inconvenience whatsoever. You stand up, they know who I am, they see my face, they let me in. There's one door. I think this is especially important at Astor because it is a building that a lot of visitors and a lot of people all over are really interested in because of Kindergarten Cop and all kinds of things that were filmed there. And the principal has had a really hard time monitoring people coming in and coming out. So I think everyone is really in support. The only thing that was ever even discussed would be inconvenience, but and I am always in a hurry, and I wasn't inconvenienced at all. So I think it's working awesome already, and it's only like day 2. So that's a really good thing. I guess we won't meet. So the 42nd annual Maddox Dance Studio Little Ballet Theater production of the Nutcracker is December 2nd and 3rd. It's a great way to start off your holiday. It's a nonprofit. It's on the Oregon Council for the Arts. It's all of the things that are pretty magical. It goes, every single dollar is spent towards children of the school's scholarship money. And Jeannie Maddox Peterson has been doing it for 42 years. It's pretty incredible just to watch her and how she runs just a top-notch show with a live orchestra, one of the only ones left in Oregon. So I hope that you'll come out for that. One more thing, Plaid Friday. I had never heard of that.
I like that.
I'd never heard of it, but till today, it's a Astoria Downtown Association idea, or not an idea. They're taking a national trend of shopping locally on Black Friday, and they call it in the United States Plaid Friday. So they are adopting that here and hope that you will all come down and shop locally and eat locally on Plaid Friday instead of Black Friday. That's all.
Commissioner Clement, I was wondering, have you seen any more cougars? Because after you were way ahead of the paper on.
I totally was. I know. I just don't know what happened there. But actually today, this morning, I went for a run at Fort Clatsop and I saw the dog version, coyote.
Dog version of a cougar.
So I told my husband that I saw the cougar, and I saw a cougar if you weren't here and didn't know. I was running on the Fairgrounds Trail, which I run all the time, and I saw what I thought was a deer, but was totally cat-like. So in my brain, when you're running, you do weird things anyway. And I realized it was a cougar. And then I went to my restaurant and I got the paper and it said cougars are coming to Clatsop County, and I was like, I just saw that. No one's gonna believe me. And then I told my husband, and he was really jealous because he's kind of outdoors guy. He's really jealous to see the cougar. And today I saw the coyote. So tomorrow's paper is gonna be coyote sightings, like have premonitions. But no, I have not seen any more cougars. He told me that he would be pretty proud if I died that way. Like that'd be pretty amazing, like for him to be like, my wife died from a cougar attack. But he told me to take my 2 fingers and shove it in their eyes. So he said, unless you can go back to the trail if you want, but remember that you need to if it's got you, you got to shove your fingers. So I learned that, and I took a couple days off from that trail and didn't go back, but I have been back there since and haven't seen any more cougars. So, but I just see a coyote.
I hope you never have to try that method out.
I know, that was his response to me. It wasn't like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go to that trail anymore. It was like, well, if you die, then that'd be pretty cool to be like a widower of like somebody that got killed by a cougar attack.
We don't want to see that.
I know. Well, that's my husband for you. But he did say, you know, take your 2 fingers and shove them in your eyes. So.
Okay, thank you. I attended the Northwest Oregon Housing Authority meeting in Tillamook, and we've done a neat thing in the authority. Over the years, we've never been happy with our property management. We're trying to build enough capacity, and we've done that over the last 8 years. As we're getting close to the point, I hope eventually we'll get to the point where we can bring in-house management, and we do some of that already on some of our properties. But we've never been happy with the property management folks that we've hired. We've always had huge turnover with employees and a host of other issues with property management. It's always a challenge for smaller housing authorities that don't do it in-house. So Executive Director Johnson and I have really worked hard the last couple of years, and we had come up with a pretty good solution. We've hired a nonprofit called Evolve, and they're out of the Valley, and they do this. It's a nonprofit, and they do property management for housing authorities and nonprofits.
Wow.
And it's a great, it was amazing to sit with these folks and their presentation and their mission. You know, it's not a for-profit thing. The people that work for the organization are really motivated and dedicated, and it's more of a service-oriented type of organization. And it's only been going on for a couple months now, and I've already seen some changes that are very positive amongst staff and right on down to maintenance. And so I'm pleased to report that I think this is a good development for the housing authorities to go towards this nonprofit management, property management model. And I'll report further on, and hopefully that I'll continue to have confidence in that.
I'm just curious, but is it this similar in costs of the other property management for profit?
It's actually better. It's a better deal for us, for the housing authority, which translates to, you know, lower rents. But they're not, well, not lower rents. Let's say, just say rents that aren't going to climb as high as they have been. The other piece of that is we just purchased a piece of property in Columbia County, and we got a really good deal on we have a park. It's an apartment complex. There's 3 units, and there was a house and vacant large lot next to it, and we were able to get a really good deal to buy the house and the large lot, and we're going to be able to build a whole nother apartment complex on that next to the other 3. So we're going to really increase Columbia housing capacity, and it's all going to be centrally located, same property management. That's going to work out real well. And so there's been good things happening with the housing authority, and the merger is still on track. And so hopefully, I think sometime in January, I know I've been saying this for a couple of years, we're going to get this done.
You're kitty.
Had an executive session meeting with the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association by phone, and we will be meeting at AOC on, I think, Tuesday. So if you are at AOC and you want to come on in, I'd be happy to have any of the commissioners come in for the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association meeting, and if it doesn't already contradict with some of your other commitments.
Is that in the morning or the afternoon, or do you know?
I think it's 10 or 11 in the morning. It may run right up against a couple other assignments. It's going to be a busy week. It always is.
It's going to be a very busy week.
We have to pick and choose the different events we go to, and anytime we can cooperate with each other and kind of, you know, you go to this one, I'll go to this one.
Do we have a schedule?
It's posted online. They haven't had the final schedule come out yet, but at the AOC site.
You're right.
Yeah.
Get it there, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
go there. And well, that's coming up next week. And AOC, I've always looked forward to going to AOC and hearing from the other folks around the state. Because when you've been to one Oregon county, you've been to one Oregon county. And there are 36 counties in Oregon, and every one of them's different and unique in all sorts of great ways. And so that's my report. County Manager Moore.
Well, this is not as interesting as Lisa's cougar story, but a couple of weeks ago, it was like 3 in the morning, and my wife woke me up, and she said, there's something in our backyard. And of course, I didn't want to get out of bed at 3 in the morning. So I said, what is it? And she said, well, I don't know. I think it might be a wild pig. And I said, a wild pig? And she goes, well, maybe it's a dog. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, a wild pig? She goes, no, I actually think it's a wolf. So apparently we had a wild pig wolf dog. I didn't get up to look at it. So,
Well, it's hard
anyway.
to tell what things are when you're a little bit away from them, and I'm always used to seeing deer or rabbits. That's all I ever
yeah, well, this
see.
is the middle of the night. So,
Wild
so
pig,
there wasn't a
that's
lot of
pretty
light
cool.
out there. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that. So a couple of things that I just wanted to remind the commissioners, and I know you're all aware of this, but again, because of our compressed meeting schedule, we have one meeting before the end of the calendar year. That's December 13th. In January, we start getting into the budget process, the beginning of the budget process. So on December 13th, we will have an agenda item to have some pre-discussion, let's say, before we ask you to approve budget policies, those type of things. You should have gotten a draft of this tonight, so you have an opportunity to review that prior to December 13th. And again, it is important, that'll be an important discussion, because in January, we'll be coming to you and asking you to approve the framework for the budget. Obviously not the budget itself, but the framework that establishes the priorities, and so then we can go to work and start building the budget based on that. So that's actually it for me tonight.
Thank you, County Manager. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.